In 1995, she walked away, leaving him alone with 5 newborns crying in his arms. People whispered, doubted, and judged. But 30 years later, when the truth surfaced, the world was left stunned. This is the story no one expected. He stood in the hospital hallway in 1995, trembling, his arms cradling 5 tiny bundles of life. The nurses looked on with pity, whispering as the young mother walked away without turning back. 5 fragile voices cried in unison, filling the sterile corridor with a sound that pierced his soul. He had been abandoned, left with quintuplets, while she disappeared into the night. The world judged him instantly. A single man, barely 30, raising 5 infants alone. It was a tragedy people shook their heads at, a scandal whispered in the streets. Some called him foolish, others pitied him, and a few even claimed he would fail before he began. Yet he said nothing. He simply lowered his gaze, tightened his grip on his children, and walked into a storm of responsibility that no one believed he could survive. Years passed, and his silence became his shield. He worked endless hours, often sleeping only minutes at a time. His hands were roughened by labor, his body tired, but he never let his children see despair. Each night, as the world slept, he whispered promises to the little ones who barely understood. "I will not fail you. You are my life." His sacrifices went unseen by most, but his children absorbed them like sunlight, growing strong under the shadow of his resilience. The pain of abandonment lingered, a wound that never closed. He could still recall the scent of that hospital corridor, the coldness of the moment when she turned her back. The weight of unanswered questions pressed on him for decades. Yet he never poisoned his children's hearts with bitterness. He taught them respect, hard work, and above all, quiet dignity. Life was never kind. Authorities questioned his ability to raise 5 children alone. Neighbors doubted his intentions. Employers frowned upon his constant need to leave for emergencies. At school, his children were sometimes whispered about, pitted as the abandoned 5. Each challenge was another stone added to the weight on his shoulders. Yet he carried it all, never asking for help, never showing weakness. And then, 30 years later, the truth surfaced. It began with a letter, sent from overseas, trembling in the hands of the now-grown eldest child. Their mother had not abandoned them out of cruelty, but out of a desperate, silent battle with her own failing health. She had believed she was dying in 1995, told she would not live to see another year. In her mind, leaving them with their father was an act of mercy, a chance for them to grow under someone strong. But instead of dying, she lived, and carried the shame of her decision for 3 decades, afraid to return, afraid to face the weight of her past. When the truth reached the children, the world seemed to stop. Those who had judged the father, those who had whispered for years, suddenly realized the magnitude of what he had done. Alone, he had carried the weight of 5 lives, never knowing the truth, never asking why, simply giving everything he had. The children gathered around him, their voices steady, their eyes filled with tears. "You are our hero. You are the reason we are here today." And in that moment, the world bore witness to something extraordinary. Crowds who had once gossiped now stood in awe. Friends, neighbors, even strangers looked upon him with silent respect. He had endured 30 years of sacrifice, not for recognition, not for applause, but for love. His story became a lesson that traveled far beyond the walls of his home. It reminded people everywhere that true strength is not loud, not boastful, but steady and unshakable. His silence had been his honor. His love had been his weapon. I never asked why she left. I only asked how I could stay. Love is not measured by ease, but by endurance. And when the truth of her absence finally came to light, he said only one final line. She left with fear, I stayed with hope. The climax was not anger, not revenge, but a moment of forgiveness. Standing before his children and the woman who had once walked away, he chose mercy over blame. The crowd around them, family and strangers alike, fell into silence, some with tears on their cheeks. Respect filled the air. What once began in whispers ended in reverence. And as the years rolled on, his legacy lived not just in the 5 children who thrived under his care, but in the countless people inspired by his endurance. This story is not just about one man and his quintuplets. It is about silent strength, unseen battles, and love that does not break, even under the heaviest weight. Respect those who carry burdens quietly, for they are the strongest among us. Where are you watching from tonight? Share your thoughts on this story, and subscribe for more tales that honor the silent heroes who walk among us every day.